Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. You are about to meet one of the most exciting and dynamic business leaders in the world. Bob Pritchard's clients are a virtual who's who of the Fortune 500 companies, including Morgan Stanley, 3M, AT&T, BMW, Johnson & Johnson, Shell, and Anheuser-Busch. It was Pritchard's vision that powered Coca-Cola's multi-million-dollar 5-continent, 16-country lifestyle program and used Goosebumps to create record sales for Frito-Lay. In sport, Bob Pritchard's credits include Formula One motor racing, World Series cricket, Legends of Tennis with Morgan McEnroe, America's Cup, Skins Golf with Norman, Nicholas, Ballesteros and Watson, Evander Holyfield, and the Oakland Raiders. When Hollywood celebrated 100 years of movie making, the American Film Institute chose Pritchard, as did Fox Studios and the Australian government for the Darling Harbour Olympic site. Bob Pritchard is a best-selling author, a genius of vision, a great motivator and winner of the highly coveted International Marketer of the Year Award. Bob provides a national daily radio commentary, as well as contributing to business magazines throughout the world. He has lectured at Stockholm and 2M universities in Europe, UCLA, USC, and Pepperdine universities in the United States, and Macquarie University in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts and please welcome to the stage the highly motivating business leader and CEO of Market Force One, Mr. Bob Pritchard.
You're simply the best, better than all the rest.
How do I get my message across out there? Getting away from traditional, boring advertising that looks exactly the same as everybody else's. What is it that motivates people to buy from you?
So you need to think differently. You need to act differently.
Today in business, you have to be prepared for the unexpected. How's your business going to be different tomorrow? You've got to take the bull by the horns and be different. You have to add value. You have to blow them away, because if you don't, somebody else will. And don't be reactive, you've got to be proactive. Superior knowledge drives our business. Nobody ever won a gold medal without years and years and years and years of hard work. It's people who are different that are successful today. Do you reckon there's any correlation between how much you know and how much you earn? What's the difference? We solve fun. We all have the potential to think differently. It's not the size of the budget, it's the size of the idea, and that's why I was saying to people yesterday, you've got to start thinking bigger and differently. What's the matter? You've got to be passionate. Yeah! You've got to make the most of every minute you've got.
It's about understanding people. It's about understanding people that you're working with, understanding people that you're selling to.
Everybody jump up a second. So what makes you think that you can get through your life and be successful and build a successful life if you don't have a set of plans? How many of you in the last week has given one of your customers a fantastic customer service experience that they walked out going, wow, that was fantastic?
How to lead people, how to motivate people, how to excite people, how to be passionate.
Today, you can do fantastic things if you use your head.
And if you want to be successful, you have to knock off your competitors.
Be creative. Think outside the box. We all hear about thinking outside the box over and over and over again, and yet none of us do it.
I wake up in the morning, I get high on fresh air. I just love it.
Education is the only way to get forward, because when you're not learning, someone somewhere else is. I don't have time not to succeed. I don't have time to waste any time. Not a minute. Same company, same people, same business, same everything. Do they now have a lot more prestige, a lot more clout, a lot more influence, a lot more everything they had before?
The companies that gave outstanding customer service as their number one priority were not only the number one most successful companies, they were the most profitable companies, highest return on investment, highest shareholder value. Number one, customer service. 17% of people buy on price. 83% don't. And yet what's the primary concern of most of you? Price.
We're fixated on price. And yet it doesn't influence 83% of people. Because most advertising is monologue. It's one message coming at you today, and one of the reasons that the internet's been so successful as a medium is because it gives you dialogue. You can talk back to the person that you're buying a product from. You can get information. You can find out what's going on. So we need to differentiate our product or service today. There's a lot of people out there that do exactly what you do. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them probably. You have to differentiate your product or service or you won't get market share. You cannot do the same thing day in, day out and expect to be successful. You can't use the advertising and marketing techniques of 5 years ago, 10 years ago to be successful today. It simply doesn't work. You've got to take the bull by the horns and be different. It's people who are different that are successful today. People who use their imagination, initiative, and people who follow a set of rules. We've developed 15 keys that we apply to every product. It doesn't matter whether it's a Vander Holyfield or whether it's a shop or whether it's General Motors. It doesn't matter. The same 15 keys work with every business. And what I'd like to do is just run through some of them with you today, because it's critical that you understand these, or your marketing in the future will get progressively less successful. If you look at every industry, there are dramatic changes. What are the changes that are going to occur in your business? How's your business going to be different tomorrow than it is today? Because unless you plan for that future, unless you plan for your business in 2 years' time or 5 years' time and 10 years' time, you won't have a business. Because today you're competing with people all over the planet that do what you do. Don't be reactive, you've got to be proactive. You've got to do things before they find out what the market leaders all over the world are doing and emulate them. Come up with your own ideas as well, but be ahead of the game. Forget market share. You think of any business, you build any business one customer at a time. You've got to focus on share of customer. You've got to get that customer to love you to death. And you win them. If you don't, you won't. How many of you think that price is really important in your business? Quite a few. You know, I was speaking to a motor dealers convention, and we were talking about this, and they said, you know, the big thing in our business is price. If we put up our prices, we lose our business, lose market share. Anybody here driving a Kia? Is that the cheapest car? A Kia? Anybody? No one. Hang on, the motor industry tells me that their industry is all about price, yet no one here is driving a Kia. So it obviously wasn't that important to you, was it? You think you're the only people who don't care about price? Your customers don't care about price either. They only care about price if everything else is equal. And if everything else is equal, you're doing a very bad job of marketing your product. You've got to blow people away today with great service. You've got to add value to every step along their transaction. From the moment they call up on the phone or the moment they meet the salesman or whatever they do, any interaction with a customer, you have to add value. You have to blow them away, because if you don't, somebody else will. There's a copywriter, it's a true story, there's a copywriter in London called David Abbott. He's the best copywriter in the world, won more awards than anybody else. And every morning he'd get out of the tube and he'd walk up to the agency and he'd pass a blind man who was sitting there with a hat. And the blind man had this little sign and it said, "I am blind, please help." This is true. And he passed this guy, and every night he'd come past and the fellow would have a few coins in the bucket. So David said one morning, "Do you mind if I write something on the sign?" The blind man said, "No, go ahead." So David wrote. At the end of the day when he came past, the blind fellow had a stack of money in the tin. And the blind fellow said, "Do you mind if I ask you what you wrote on the sign?" And David said, "Simple. You had, I am blind, please help. I wrote, it is spring, I am blind, please help. Just that bit of emotion made the difference between the guy getting a few pounds and the guy getting tens of pounds. Everybody reacts to emotion. You've got to give you've got to get equity in your brand by giving people great service, by answering questions immediately, by over-satisfying. You can build great equity. Look for the individual, every customer, instead of the customer in every individual, and you will always, always be successful. How many of you look for that individual? How many of you care about that person? Take an interest in them. Develop a rapport with them. Treat them the way you'd like to be treated. The difference between a benefit and a feature is one motivates people to do something and one doesn't. You go to a hairdressing salon, see a sign in the yellow pages and it says, hairdressing salon, 8 chairs, 1 bum. 8 chairs is a feature. No benefit to me whatsoever. It's not the size of the budget counts, it's the size of the idea. We have people moaning about the size of their budget day in, day out. That's because they're not using their heads. There's much better ways to go about things. Had a pizza company come to us, they wanted a promotion. I mean, everybody sells pizzas. So the promotion we came up with was, bring along your competitors' ad out of the yellow pages and we'll give 2 pizzas for the price of 1. All these people turned up with all the competitors' ads out of the yellow pages. Next time they want a pizza, we're the only ones in it. Cost nothing. If you want to be successful today, you've got to really grab the bull by the horns. You've got to study up on what it is that your business is about. What is it that motivates people to buy from you? What is it that you can do to get them emotionally involved in buying your product? Forget price. Forget price, take that right out of the equation. How can I emotionally involve people? How can I treat people over the top? How do I get people from the moment their first contact with me till the moment they buy or don't buy? How do I get them to love me to death? How do I get my message across out there? Getting away from traditional, boring advertising that looks exactly the same as everybody else's. You know the interesting thing about advertising? Everybody follows what everybody else does. City Ford run ads in the paper. Oh, well, we'd all better run ads in the paper. Just another sheep. A me too. Today, you can do fantastic things if you use your head. Be creative. Think outside the box. We all hear about thinking outside the box over and over and over again, and yet none of us do it. We sit there and do the same boring stuff week in, week out. Focus on the customer. They're the only people that count. Without a customer, none of us have a job. Education is the only way to get forward, because when you're not learning, someone somewhere else is. One of your competitors. And when the two of you meet, if your competitor knows more than you do, they'll win. We'll work far too hard to let the competitor win. Why, when I was announced, was everybody watching the front? What was that? That's where I'm supposed to be. Well, that's the problem, you see, because we're in business today and most people are used to things happening the way they are supposed to be. And today in business it doesn't work like that. Today in business you have to be prepared for the unexpected. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get a different result. If you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep getting the same result, no matter what you do. So if you want to be successful, listen to what I say and what everybody else says, and then go back, and before you start work tomorrow or Monday, sit down, think about the things that you're doing, think about what you heard here, what can I take back and adapt in my business, and then make a conscious effort to do something that's better. Nobody ever won a gold medal without years and years and years and years of hard work. And nobody ever succeeds in business without a lot of hard work. Individually, you're one little cog out there swimming uphill trying to make a buck. Together, you are a major power unit. He earned $7 million last year. Read 50 books, made $7 million. Hands up everybody who made $7 million last year. Not a lot of hands, really, is there? Do you reckon there's any correlation between how much you know and how much you earn? You've got to know your competitor as well as you know yourself. It's something I learned. I had Evander Holyfield sitting in my backyard. Evander said, I'm going to beat Tyson. I said, you're nuts. You know, you're dead set nuts. And he said, no, because as soon as we found out we were going to fight Tyson, we went out and we got a video of every fight Tyson's ever had, ever. And I've watched them over and over and over and over again. So I know exactly what he's going to do when he gets into a certain position. He knew his competitor backwards, forwards and sideways. To get somebody back, you have to knock their socks off. They have to say, wow, that was a fantastic experience that I want to experience again. Who thinks Bunnings is in the hardware business? Who woke up this morning and said, today I have to buy a hammer? Anybody have a burning, passionate desire to buy a hammer today? Not a lot of you, right? Why do you buy a hammer? Because you have a problem you need to solve. I've got a problem, I'm going to go and buy a hammer. So Bunnings is in the problem-solving business, a totally different business than the hardware business. Window frames. They had an ad in the yellow pages with a window frame. You know, some genius at the advertising agency had shaded it and made it look like a really pretty window and all that. Now, we've got high-quality window frames. They were going out of business because you don't walk in your kitchen and say, boy, I'd love to stick a window frame there. That'll look great. Do you? Why do you buy a window frame? To get a view. So we got rid of all this stuff and we found out in this area that the store was in that people were buying windows so they could watch their kids around the pool. So we put in a pool, kids, and watch your kids 24 hours a day. Sales went up 1,200%. Hands up everybody who's driving a Kia. Kia? Who's driving a Kia? Hey, hang on. The motor industry says it's all about price. If it was all about price, you'd all be driving Kias, wouldn't you? But you're not, are you? Because when it came to buying a vehicle, price wasn't that important. They didn't just buy some cars. If you've got a business where people are making a decision whether or not to use you based on price, it's easy to identify the problem. Go home, look in the mirror. There it is. If you don't give people an absolutely positive reason to use or pay more for your product, they will of course buy based on price. Every single decision anyone makes, they make because of emotional reasons. Why do you make a decision? Because it makes you feel better in some way. Doesn't matter what it is. So when you're promoting and advertising your business, whether it's a caravan or whatever the hell it is, how is that making the person that's reading it, hearing it or watching it feel better? This is Disneyland, happiest place on earth. From the moment you told the kids 3 weeks ago, they have been excited. They have had a great time every day, haven't been there yet. They are so excited. How many more sleeps? 10. How many more sleeps now? You pay your money and you go in and one of your kids says, Captain EO, you've got to go to Captain EO. So you race down to Captain EO fast and you get there. What's the first thing you see? A queue. And a sign. And the queue's not just a little queue, is it? It's a doozy. Goes for miles. And there's a sign that says, the wait from this point is 1 hour. That's right, this is Disneyland, happiest place on earth. You little beauty. So you wait for an hour, go in, Captain EO's over in 4 minutes. Go in on that. The average person that goes to Disneyland stands in a line for 6 hours and 20 minutes. You stand in a line for 6 hours and 20 minutes, and what do you say as you leave? Wasn't that fantastic? Didn't we have a great day? And the kids are saying, can we go back tomorrow? You stood in a line for half your life. You're nuts. But it's Disneyland. It's about emotion. They can do anything to you. They can do That was great. We also make the mistake of categorising people in funny little categories. The first one, mixes with crooks, consults with astrologers, has 2 mistresses, drinks 10 martinis a day. That's one. Second one, kicked out of office twice, sleeps till noon, smoked opium, drinks a quart of whiskey a day. Third one, decorated war hero, vegetarian, doesn't smoke, seldom drinks, never cheated on his wife. Who's going to vote for number 1? Same guys I saw in the bar at 3 o'clock last night. Who's going to vote for number 2? Who's going to vote for number 3? Everybody's going to vote for number 3. Number 1, Franklin, Delano, Roosevelt. Number 2, Winston Churchill. Number 3, Adolf Hitler. If you're going to put people in little boxes, you can be terribly, terribly, terribly wrong. How many of you send Christmas cards to all your customers? That's great. You'll feel proud of yourself, don't you? You don't know their religions, do you? So some of the Jewish customers you have are getting Christmas cards, right? And some of the Muslim customers that you've got are getting Christmas cards. That's very good. Very good. Dad gets home, says, "How was your day?" I said, "Oh, one of your friends sent me a little card. It's great." "Who was that?" "I don't know." He picks it up. He says, "Oh, John, I was talking to him yesterday." Does he like you more than he did yesterday? Does he owe you one? Absolutely. He is going to buy something off you. You can take it to the bank. It's cost you a $5 card. Now, if our client says to us, "Had a fantastic weekend, it was our anniversary," say, "Wonderful." Now, the great thing about anniversaries, happen at the same time next year. 2 weeks before the anniversary next year, or the same date next year, we send out a little card with a couple of theatre tickets or something and say, "Have a great anniversary, hope it's terrific." Do they like you more than they did before? Do they owe you one? You never lose a client. At the end of 5 years, something like 450,000 people are raving about your caravan park. If you only get 1% of them and they stay a week, you cannot fit them in. You haven't run one ad and you started with 10 people. You can't fit them in. You haven't spent a dime in advertising or anything else to get them. Too many people today can't communicate, find it extremely difficult, and yet it's the most important part of doing business. And we just don't listen when people are talking to us. We don't hear what they're saying. Silk, S-I-L-K, what do cows drink? Cows drink milk. Really? Not in America, they don't. In America, cows drink water. They actually give milk. I just told her that when people speak, people don't listen. So she knew it was a trick and still said, "Cows drink milk." I was in a restaurant and they said, and they had this little photo, bedded polenta, and I thought, how cute is that? And when I went and spoke to them, they said, "We couldn't give the stuff away. We had it on the menu, couldn't give it away, put this little bedded polenta on, now everybody orders it. They sell truckloads of it." Now that's thinking differently. It's not the size of the budget, it's the size of the idea, and that's why I was saying to people yesterday, you've got to start thinking bigger and differently. Because it's amazing what you can achieve if you think about things in a different way. One of the things about being successful is believing in what you're doing, about having passion. Who can stand up and in 20 words or less tell me what they want out of their life? What's their vision for their life? Come on, surely you've got to think about it every day. You've got to know where you're going, don't you? Can't somebody stand up and just tell me in 20 words or less what their vision is for their life? That's pretty sad, isn't it? Isn't that sad? You think about it. Where are you going? I don't know, I'm going to get up today and I'm going to do what I'm going to do today, and I don't know. That's wicked. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, shouldn't you? Think about it for a minute. When you go to your office and your place of business, is everybody there? Does everybody get in at 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever time they start, they're all passionate and can't wait to get started, want to start the day thinking about something new or doing something they haven't done before? Is that what, that's the way, or are you just running sort of an adult daycare centre? You know? 18 years. Okay, so you've had 18 years experience. Have you really? You had 18 years experience, if you had 1 year's experience 18 times. Think about it. So many of us say, oh, we've got 10 years experience. Really? What did you do in year 2 you didn't do in year 1? What did you do in year 3 you didn't do in year 2? Most of us are just having the same year's experience over and over and over again. I don't have time not to succeed. I don't have time to waste any time. Not a minute. Everybody jump up for a sec. Can everybody just feel under the seat, see if you find anything? Anybody find anything? What did you find? $1 coin. What does that prove to you? You've got to get off your ass to make a buck. Your birth certificate got an expiry date on it? Probably hasn't. So you don't know when. You've got to make the most of every minute you've got. Because if you don't, the only person you're robbing is you. And your family. And your grandkids. And all the people who love you. They're the people you're robbing. You owe it to yourself to go and kick the hell out of this world, give it everything you can. Don't just fill in time. The place is wonderful. It's a beautiful world. There's so many fantastic things to do. Don't waste a minute of it. Thanks very much. Good afternoon. How are you? How are you? Good. That's better. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. I really appreciate it. So how do we make Nexium a mega brand? How do we utilise the power of all of our skills, each of our individual skills, to ensure that we achieve the objectives? The power of one person is incredible, and we underestimate it very often. You know, in the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in Nagano, if each person in the Swedish Olympic team improved by just 2%, Sweden would have won every single gold medal. They won none. So a 2% improvement individually would have meant every single gold medal. That's how much difference each of you can make. Just think of that. Everybody here, 10% better. What an unbelievable force that would make. Success isn't just up to the front line, guys. It's up to everybody in the company to have one vision, one voice, and one goal. It makes a difference. That's the power that this company has in this room. But we must also realise that the most important thing in business today, the biggest power of all, is the power of the customer. Today we build big businesses one customer at a time, and only those companies that have got fantastic communication ability will succeed today. A new way to look at the way we do business. The first one, ideas. Today we need new ideas. Only 1% of the thoughts you have today are different than yesterday. That's not good enough. If you want to be successful in business today, 1% change in your thoughts is not good enough. We need imagination. We've got to think outside the box. We've got to get away from our normal way of thinking. Intuition, gut feel is very important. The most important person out there is your customer, the practitioner who's going to be prescribing Nexium. You need to have intuition about what they're thinking, what they're feeling, so that we know that decision maker. You know, all decisions are made with a preconscious mind. When you think about something, your preconscious mind thinks about it first. That's a 100% emotional part of your mind. There is no pragmatism in that whatsoever. So if they think Nexium first, they'll buy it. Your job is to put it in the front of their mind. We need to interact more with our peers, with our customers, and internally, so that we all understand and we're all on the one page. We need to seize the initiative. We have to be able to address customers, our practitioners' issues on the spot. Delays cause anger. Delays cause frustration. We have to, and they give your competitors an opportunity to get in. Today, we've got to use our marketing and our sales skills to deliver a unique customer experience. They've got to feel, wow, this is a company that is helping me, that I want to deal with.
The power of winning today is the power of knowledge, the power to be able to communicate. The difference between a great company and a good company is a great company knows how to listen to its customers and listen to its staff. Without satisfied customers, no one has a business. The only person that's important is the customer. And believe it or not, the customer doesn't care about you. They don't care about you at all. The customer only cares about them. We've got to be able to compare our product with the competitor's product. Objectively, correctly. We've got to give them information. That way we build equity. Clothes aren't about price. Cars aren't about price. No business on this planet is about price. Not one. People only make a decision based on price if everything else is equal. If everything else is equal, you've done a lousy job of marketing your product. To educate companies, we've got to educate ourselves first. We've got to educate ourselves about our product, about our competitor's product, and the customer. What does the customer want? What changes are they going through? What pressures are they going through? Levi's. 1996, Levi's had 31% of the world's jeans market. 31%. Within 12 months, they had 14%. The market changed. They didn't. From 31% to 13% in 1 year. How is your customer changing? How are your prescribers changing? What different pressures are they under today than they were yesterday? How are their needs going to change over the next couple of years? How do you give your customers exactly what they want? How do you ensure that you just sound like your competition? If you go in there and you sound exactly like the bloke before you, who is your competition, you'll lose. One of my favourite sayings, Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening the axe. How many of us actually sharpen the axe? And how many of us just go out there and start chopping? Because, you know, the guy who goes out and starts chopping doesn't cut the tree down the fastest. So how much time before you go to a meeting with a prescriber do you actually sit there and think about the prescriber, think about who they are, what they've told you, what information you've got? How many of you? Just that couple of minutes extra thought about who you're going to see and what their needs are could mean the difference between building a rapport with them and not. Today you've got to look for the individual in every customer rather than the customer in every individual. Look for that individual. What are they about? They've got to be able to trust you, rely on you for advice. Know that what you're giving them is true and accurate and is going to help them. Empathy drives communication. And only when you understand your customers and what you're feeling can you properly communicate with them. You know, communication today is dialogue. Too many of us are in the monologue business. We're too busy telling them how great we are to listen to what's happening to them. How many of us have rented Avis because they try harder? What are you saying? What is your one powerful prescribing benefit? If you don't know what it is, we need to think about it. You've got to differentiate yourself from your competitor. It produces very powerful results. And what's that powerful message that you're getting across that's getting into the pre-conscious mind that's telling them, I need you? We had a pizza store come to us and said, we need a promotion and we got no money, we're broke. I said, okay. So we just simply said, anybody who brings in all our competitors' ads from the yellow pages gets 2 pizzas for the price of 1. Everybody cut out all the competitors' ads and brought them in, got 2 pizzas. Next time they want to buy a pizza, we're the only people in the phone book. Doesn't cost anything. It's about thinking. You know, the power that we all have, the power of the company, the power of the team, the success of your product, of Nexium, all comes down to the power that you have. You're going to make the difference, every one of you. The guys at the back, the guys in the Mercedes, they can't make a difference. It's up to you. You've got it in your hands. How many of you are totally focused all the time on what you're doing? I'm going to go and see this doctor. I'm focusing on that. I'm not worried about anything else. I'm thinking about him, what I can do. I saw a wonderful interview with Tiger Woods the other day. They said, how come you're so good? And he said, I concentrate absolutely on every shot, every round, every practice, every single time. I never let my mind wander anywhere else. How many of us can say that? And look how good he is. It's about focus. It's about setting goals for ourselves. You know, the difference between, in Sydney in 3 weeks' time, the difference between the gold and silver medal in the 100 metres is 7 times faster than any one of you can blink. The difference between the guy who comes first and the guy who comes second, 7 times faster than any one of you can blink. That's not a lot. But everybody will remember who came first. Nobody will remember who came second. So for you to be the best you can be is that much difference. It's that 10% I was talking about earlier. With passion, with feeling, communicate the energy. Get that rapport going and you will win. This will be a mega brand. Thank you very much.
The power of the idea. You know, a lot of people think that it takes money to be successful, but it doesn't. If you have a look at fire every one of you tomorrow, simply by shopping somewhere else. And yet how many are important? But we're not important compared to the importance of the customer. Now, when you go to the office, how many of you spend at least 65% of your time focusing on the customer? How many? Not many. We worry about our products, we worry about the way our operation runs, we worry about the accounts, we worry about all that sort of stuff, but none of that is important. Because without the customer, and without the customer buying things, without the customer loving you, you don't have a business. Doesn't matter how good you are. Inside my business, there's a dozen skill sets that I really need to know. I'm a CEO, therefore I need to be a good administrator. I need to know about accounting. I need to know about sales. I need to know about leadership. I need to know about teamwork. I need to know about communication. I need to be good at all those things and probably a bunch more. How many of you have actually sat down and looked at all the skill sets that you need to be successful? Most of us don't. How many of us can honestly say, anybody that thinks that they are at least an 8 out of 10 in all the skill sets that they need to do their job properly or do the job that they want to do in the future properly? Hands up anybody who thinks they're 8 out of 10 in all of those things. How many of you got up this morning and the very first thing you did was look up your competitor's website? Hands up. None. Why not? It's a serious question. If you think about it, there's 2 ways to build your business, isn't there? The first one is to grow the market, so you get the same slice of a bigger pie. That's one way. That's hard, isn't it? The second way is to take business off your competitor, right? So if you're going to take business off your competitor, you have to know how to work with your internal customers as it is to work with your external customers. Mall of America. It's a shopping mall. 66,000 bus trips to Mall of America. 2.5 times the attendance of Disney World. It's a series of shops. Why do people go there? Because it's an experience. People love to shop. Those of you who are in retail or those of you who sell products at retail, people love to shop. The reason they're going to the internet and buying off the internet is because you're not giving them an experience. Hands up everybody who thinks having a good product is important. Come on! All of you. So we got nearly 100% to all of those. You know, 87% of all advertising today is based around the product, price, satisfied customers, or brand awareness. 87%. And he gets out, you know, and it's the middle of the night, and he's got his dark sunglasses on, and walking around. And he says, what do you think you're doing? And I said, I just saved this penguin's life
and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but at the moment I'm going to put it in the car so it doesn't get run over. So the cop says, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, that penguin has to be in the zoo. Okay, no problem. So a week later, I'm walking down the street in Santa Monica, and I've now bought this penguin, this lovely little Diamante thing, and I'm walking down the street with this penguin. And the same cop comes over and he says, I thought I told you last week to take that penguin to the zoo. I said, I did. Today we're going to the movies. Because we are in the knowledge business. The person with the most knowledge wins. And I just put aside 4 hours a week. That's all I put aside. And it's made such a tremendous difference to my life. We know what we want. We know how to sell product. And it's all about getting sales. It's about selling people stuff. Horace and Collins showed that customer service leaders, the company in each category, across 28 categories, that provided the best customer service, could charge 9 to 13% more than their competitors without losing the sale. Now you have a think about 13%. Let's say you're selling a product at $2. Let's say you're selling a product at $2 and it costs you $1.80 to make it. You wouldn't, but let's just suggest you do. And you can add 13% onto that without losing the business. All of a sudden you can charge $2.26 to get your business. You've taken your profit from 26 to 46 cents. So just giving people great customer service can make a huge difference to your profit margin. Companies that the customer service leaders grow at double the speed of their competitors because they've got word of mouth. The latest Harper's Bazaar study, just a couple of months ago, showed that every time you gave somebody fantastic knock your socks off service, 633 people were actually told about it. You told people, they told people. 633 people heard about the fantastic service you gave. You phoned the number, the voice on the other end said, Santa Monica Liquor Store. When somebody buys your product in good faith, irrespective whether it's a Volvo truck or whether it's my tapes or whatever, satisfied people's needs, they always should get their money back. And it doesn't matter what the product or service is, you should always stand behind your product and give people their money back.
Because that's a good investment, to give them back if they're not satisfied.
Yeah, well, it's just morally the right thing to do. The people that actually complain are usually just the tip of the iceberg. For every one person that complains about any service or quality, there's another 100 that don't complain. So if you don't address the issue, then sooner or later it's going to come and bite you. I understand the balance thing because I travel all the time, and I travel an awful lot. But I'm in a unique, different sort of a job than most people who, live in the same town that they work in. I just don't have to do that. And I'm the first to agree that my balance is not very good. But I make up for it in that I take my son often when he's not in school. And so he's 11 and he's been to China and he's been to Japan and he's been to Hong Kong and he's been to Australia and he's been to South Africa and he's been to England and he's been to France. And he's seen an awful lot of the world, and that's been fantastic for his education, and that's real quality time.
What you're explaining now is that you have to work harder, you have to be much more focused on what you're doing, you have to think differently. And
I don't think you have to work hard.
No?
I think most of us work hard. Most of us work too hard. It's about working smarter, it's not about working harder. Once they started setting goals and knowing exactly where they were going, that they found they had so much more time because they were just that much more organised. And so instead of being able to do less, they actually could do a lot more in a lot less time. And I think that's true. I think the more disciplined you are as far as goals, setting out a to-do sheet every day, dealing with the things that are important and not just the things that come up, you can actually cut down the amount of work you do and still be much more effective. How many of us walk past a receptionist and don't
think they're important. They're just somebody who answers the phone. If they leave it, get somebody else. And yet they're your front line with your customer. Often, they're your front line with the customer. Usually they turn up at 9 o'clock, go home at 5. They have no idea why they're there. They don't really know what you're up to. They're not involved in any processes. And we found that by involving everybody, we've done this with a number of businesses, involve everybody. Get everybody. You know, it's amazing what suggestions come from people that have nothing to do with what you're working on. They'll come up with a suggestion, you think, wow, that's fantastic. Why didn't I think of that? You don't involve them, you don't get those answers. And once somebody believes in your company, if you start explaining to your receptionists what you're doing, why you're doing it, and get them involved in meetings and things, you get this huge lift in enthusiasm and participation, and everybody just works so much better and the company's more efficient, the customers can hear that additional enthusiasm. So I'd involve everybody and I'd look at everything you do and say, is this the best way to do it? I'd start measuring all your results. I mean, what's the point of advertising if you can't measure the results? What's the point of doing anything if you can't measure the results? Everything's measurable, and you should. Because it's tough out there, and it's a tough world. At the start of my speech, I said, who's finding it tough? And everybody said yes. It's going to get a lot tougher. Right? It's tough, but it's going to get harder. And it's going to get more competitive. And so if you're not prepared for it now, you're going to be less prepared in 2 or 3 years' time.
Nothing really that we've heard over the last couple of days is rocket science. It's practical, it's logical, it's about understanding people. It's about understanding people that you're working with, understanding people that you're selling to, what makes them tick, and therefore you just need, once you understand that, the rest of it comes easy. But it's not that easy. There's 6 billion people out there who are all trying to get the same dollar, aren't they? They're all out there working hard to get the same dollar. So we have to really apply ourselves. And you don't have to be a rocket science. You don't have to have a lot of money. I've worked around the planet with some of the most successful people in the world, and most of them started off fairly humbly. And, David Hammond's been a huge success. He didn't start off with a silver spoon in his mouth. I certainly didn't. But it is about applying yourself. It's about continuing to learn. And it's about working hard. You've got to work hard to succeed. And I can't emphasise enough that you have to continue to learn. There's some great product out there. There's some fantastic books. There's some wonderful tapes. There's great programs that you can learn from. And Tiger Woods is a great example of what I'm about to say. Tiger Woods, there are 10 major disciplines in golf. And I can't remember what the 10 of them are. But there are 10 major disciplines in golf. So he's not number one in any one discipline of golf. But he knows more about the 10 of them, or he's better at the 10 of them on average than anybody else is, makes him one hell of a golfer. Business is the same. If you've got great skills in marketing, that isn't enough in business today. You have to know more about a wide variety of things. If you have a look at, again, having a look at David. David's an accountant. He's a pretty good salesman. He's great at writing copy. He's a psychologist. He's got quite a diverse range of skills. And while he mightn't be the best in the world at any of them, because he's good at all of them, makes him a very rounded businessman that can be successful. So if you're a great salesman, you need to know more. You need to understand how to read a balance sheet. You need to understand the basics of all elements of business, or you're not going to make it. And one of the things I like about the American education is my son at 11 can read balance sheets. He's already been through all that stuff. They teach it at school. Because if you're going to be successful, you need to broaden your knowledge. So you need to be as good as you can be in whatever field that you specialise in, but you need to know more. You need to be able to, I hear people say all the time, I've got lousy people skills, I'm a bad manager. There's lots of books, get Jack Welch's book and read it, and you'll get a lot of tips on how to lead people, how to motivate people, how to excite people, how to be passionate. When you wake up in the morning, you should be like this all the time. I'm like this I wake up in the morning, I get high on fresh air. I just love it. You know, because today's another day. Another day I can do something different. Don't do the same thing over and over and over and over again. David's got a great saying, which he used earlier. The only difference between a grave and a rut is the depth. And the problem is, most of us are somewhere between the grave and the rut. We're dead from the neck up. We need a transfusion. You've got to get up in the morning and say, today I'm going to do something different. Today I'm going to do something exciting. And bite off more you can chew and chew like hell. You know, and I remember my mum used to say to me, don't just sit there, do something. Anybody else's mum say that? Well, today, don't just do something, sit there. Think about what you're going to do before you do it. Most of us race off like a bull at a gate. Don't do it. Think about what you're going to do. Make sure you got it right. Be like David. You know, we're on our 20th rewrite of this script for next weekend. Keep polishing it, test it until you get it right. You know, don't come to me and say, geez, my Yellow Pages ad didn't work. Well, did you test it? No. When did you lodge it? Oh, when they rang me and told me the deadline's in 45 minutes. You know, that's when I said, oh, well, run it again. But that's just plain stupid. You're just pissing away money. It's crazy. Do it. Test. Keep learning. So if you're no good at sales, go and get some books on how to sell. If you're no good at accounting, go and get some books on basic fundamentals of understanding how your business needs to work. But broaden your knowledge. If you want to be successful, you need to learn more. And you need to be passionate about what you do. People buy your energy. You know, I believe I can go in and sell somebody almost anything. And I'm not a closer. I don't sit there, I don't plan, I don't whatever. I just go in and I meet, and with a bit of luck, my energy transfers to them and they say, yes. But you've got to continue to learn. You've got to be passionate. You've got to go and kick the hell out of this world, because if you don't kick the hell out of the world, they're going to kick the hell out of you. Thanks very much. I appreciate you listening to me.